Hello, welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has met with leaders of the two main political parties in the country, that is, the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party. This is the first meeting bringing both parties together since the inception of the Buhari administration. The meeting was held at the Aso Rock Villa in Abuja. The president, through his Twitter handle, said, quote, "Today's meeting with PDP and APC was not a political gathering, but a symbol of our unity and an expression of the maturity of our democracy," end of quote. The meeting had in attendance the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, as well as APC Chairman John Oyegun and caretaker Chairman of the PDP, Ahmed McCarthy. Also, the President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday met with the 36 state governors of the country. This follows an earlier meeting between the President and leaders of the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress. This is the first time the President will be meeting with state governors after his return from a 3-month medical vacation in London. Minister for Transportation Rotimi Amechi says President Muhammadu Buhari has signed various rail line projects across the state. The minister made the statement at the Osasu Show Symposium. According to Amechi, some of the approved rail line projects are Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, Kano to Maiduguri, Makurdi to Jos, Gombe to Yobe, and Jigawa to Niger Republic. The minister also criticized past administrators for their poor performance in the railway activities. He assured that the Buhari-led administration will do all within its powers to fix all abandoned projects. A Nigerian Air Force jet has crashed, killing the pilot. Spokesman for the Air Force, Air Commodore Olatokunbo Adesonya, confirmed this, saying the accident happened on Thursday in Kaduna, north-central Nigeria. Adesonya, who commiserated with the family of the deceased, said an investigation is underway to determine the cause of the crash. He also stated that the pilot was the only one aboard the aircraft. The Arewa Youth Consultative Forum has withdrawn the quick notice issued to Igbos living in the northern part of the country. The group on June 6 issued a quick notice to Igbo residents in the northern region, asking them to vacate the area on or before October 1st, 2017. However, after a press conference in Abuja on Thursday, the Coalition of Northern Youth Group announced the withdrawal of that quick notice. The decision follows meeting between the youth group and Igbo traditional rulers in the northern region. Meanwhile, the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB on Friday rejected Arewa Youth withdrawal of the quick notice. IPOB urged Igbos residing in the north to ignore the withdrawal of the quick notice and return to the southeast.
I am acting based on a mandate given to me by my colleagues, and we are here principally as a pressure group to support the reverse position taken by the coalition of Arewa groups. We are here to politely but meticulously ensure that this press conference holds as planned, and to politely monitor and ensure that the quick notice was publicly withdrawn the same way it was publicly declared in June.
As a consequence of these vigorous engagements, and as cultured people with a tradition of respect for our national values, leaders and elders, we are today pleased to announce the immediate suspension of the relocation clause, otherwise referred to as the quit notice from the Kaduna Declaration. This suspension, we are proud to say, is also out of respect for and reaffirmation of our allegiance to one united, peaceful, and prosperous Nigeria, and in our unshaken confidence in the political will and sincere commitment of our dear President Muhammadu Buhari to take a holistic look at all the concerns we raised.
The Nigerian government has directed the National Broadcasting Commission to sanction any radio or television station that broadcasts hate speech. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed issued a directive at the 25th anniversary of the commission. The minister, who was one of the guest speakers at the event, said the directive was part of efforts to stem the growing tide of hate speech in the country. Also present at the event was the Sultan of Sokoto, Abubakar Sa'ad III.
Apart from trying very hard to incite violence, the purveyors of hate speech are also deliberately giving the impression that this administration has not achieved anything since assuming office in May 2015. This is false, and no amount of hatred will obliterate the solid achievements of the Buhari administration under a most difficult situation. Despite operating with just 45% of the funds available to the immediate past administration, due largely to the fall in oil prices in our monoproduct economy and the failure to save for the rainy day, this government has achieved so much more in so short a time.
I wish to particularly salute and lend our very strong support to the decision of the federal government to criminalize and punish hate speech. We have laws in our various law statutes, but what we require or what we lack sort of implementing those laws, because once something is done by any particular person who is close to you, you turn your eyes away. So we have such laws, and therefore we lend our very strong support.
We have also finished work on the review of the Nigeria Broadcasting Code. That is the instrument that regulates our industry. All licensees of the NBC operate on the basis of the letters of our code. And by the time that newly reviewed instrument is presented publicly to the industry, Nigerians will discover that we have included 3 new innovations. These concern the nature of local content to assist in the protection of creative jobs within the Nigerian economy. We also made new regulations about advertising spend for the development of the Nigerian sports industry. And finally, we defined and provided sanctions against hate and dangerous speech.
I cannot overemphasize the need for the media to appreciate its powerful influence, which can actually exacerbate hate and violence. However, in trying to regulate broadcasters on the issue of hate speech, the Commission should be careful not to be seen to intimidate broadcasters in restricting their right to freedom of expression or playing their watchdog role.
Former President of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, on Friday took a jab at the Buhari-led administration, insinuating that Nigerians enjoyed unfettered freedom of speech during his administration. In an effort to clamp down hate speech, the Buhari-led administration announced that hate speeches will now be considered an act of terrorism, as the Nigerian army launched strategic media centers to monitor social media comments. Apparently, in reaction to these developments, Jonathan shared a picture from a post he made on Facebook in 2014. The post read in part, I quote, "I am the most abused and insulted president in the world, but when I leave office, you will all remember me for the total freedom you enjoyed under me," end of quote. Meanwhile, the ruling All Progressive Congress, in an official statement by a spokesperson, described the former president's post as a personal opinion. The All Progressive Congress has put their full weight behind the establishment of special court for hate speech in the country. Chairman of the APC National Youth Caucus, Mark Nzimbehe, at a news briefing said the court will help guard against divisive speeches in the country. He added that the group was in support of every effort targeted at unifying all ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, alongside vice-chancellors of some universities in the country, have rejected the admission cut-off mark of 120 for universities in the country. The Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, earlier this week pegged university cut-off marks at 120, while that of polytechnics, monotechnics, and College of Education was placed at 100. Mixed reactions have since trailed the recent development, with ASU describing it as a sad policy decision In the same vein, the vice-chancellors of major universities in the country rejected the new cut-off mark, saying that the decision would add no value to the nation's university system. The Nigeria Labour Congress has called for attitudinal change in Nigerian leaders for good governance and realistic development in the country. This was the position of various stakeholders at the opening ceremony of the National Conference organized by the NLC. Present at the event were Labour leaders, including former NLC President Adams Oshomole.
Having spoken to the need for devolution of powers and the need to review revenue allocation in favor of the states and local government, even that will not translate to solution if leadership attitude remains the same. And why I am worried about, attitudinal issue is choices and so on is like, even where we say you can do X, Y, Z, there are states that are building airport which 1% of their population cannot fly. So what will you need the airport for?
Many of the commentaries as to why the country is not working have contended that our crisis of development is as a result of the fact that we are not practicing what they call true federalism. There are others who have sought to blame the current situation on the so-called mistake of the British in amalgamating northern and southern Nigeria in 1914. Some others say we are too diverse, too big to remain as a single nation. We strongly believe that like other big and diverse entities, such as the United States of America, India, and many countries in the continent of Europe, like Germany and Australia, there is nothing peculiar in our nationhood. Many of those countries become federations as a result of wars, and from those adversaries, they have managed to forge strong nations amidst their diversity.
There are more important things that unite us together as one people than those few that divide us. And I think the more we sit and discuss issues, the more we understand one another and chart a course for our country. And I believe in dialogue.
Vice President Emil Shibajo has called for the engagement of more agricultural practices, saying it would help in getting the country out of recession. The Vice President, who inaugurated the multi-billion naira agro-greenhouse farm in Jalingo, expressed optimism that Nigeria will soon become a major exporter in vegetable production. Oshibajo noted that agriculture is one of the major ways of providing quality jobs for youth in the country. The Nigerian police force has dismissed one of its officers under whose watch a suspected rapist and murderer escaped police custody in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The policeman, identified as John Bosco Okoreze, has also been arraigned before a chief magistrate court in Port Harcourt. He is being charged for obstruction of justice and conspiracy. Okoreze was the officer investigating Ifeanyi Dike for the alleged rape and murder of an 8-year-old girl child in Port Harcourt.
Corruption not in my country.
That was a very good business.
Yeah.
The furniture you brought was very perfect.
That's how we roll.
Let me do you receipts.
Yeah. How much of it again?
1 million naira.
Okay, write 2.5.
Mbano. The deal was for 1 million naira now.
Okay, write 3 million. I'll give you 500.
Oh no! I just do business like that now. Yeah.
In that case, give me back my check. Let me go and look for someone that understand business.
Take.
Your loss.
It is only for incorruptible customers. What are you talking?
Now get out.
What kind of this?
You will just die.
No,
you will die.
That is the door. Now get out from here.
Rubbish.
Look, my people, make we only add money for original invoice price. That's not corruption. Say no, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Glad to have you back. The Central Bank of Nigeria says it is setting up 2 financial instruments to provide liquidity support to its non-interest paying lenders. Nigeria, home to the largest Muslim population in sub-Saharan Africa, seeks to establish itself as the African hub for Islamic finance. The central bank has been working to set regulatory ground rules for such things as Islamic bonds and insurance. Islamic banking products which are compliant with Islamic Sharia law do not charge interest on financing. Profits or losses are instead shared with the borrower, meaning they discourage unnecessary speculation and spread risks. The Nigerian government has launched a fund with an initial value of $200 million to support local oil and gas firms. The Nigerian Content Development Fund is expected to be financed through the allocation of 1% of the value of all contracts awarded in the upstream oil and gas industry. The intervention fund, according to the Ministry of State for Petroleum Resources, Ibe Kachuku, is part of measures to improve access to low-cost credit for oil and gas firms operating in Nigeria. Oil prices rose on Friday as the U.S. petroleum industry braced for Hurricane Harvey, which may become the biggest storm to hit the U.S. mainland in more than a decade. The hurricane is forecast to make landfall late Friday or early Saturday between Corpus Christi and Houston, both important oil refining centers in the region. Brent crude gained 40 cents to trade at $52.44 a barrel, while U.S. crude was up 30 cents at $47.73 a barrel. Energy companies have pulled workers from offshore oil platforms and halted onshore drilling in South Texas. On to international scene now, Angola's ruling MPLA party has been declared winner of the country's recently conducted presidential election. The country's electoral commission announced provisional results for the election on Friday. Now, according to the results, MPLA got 61.10% of votes, while the country's major opposition Unity Party got 26.71% of tallied votes. The main opposition has, however, rejected the election result. Former MPLA Defense Minister Joao Lourenço is expected to become Angola's first new president after 38 years, replacing José Eduardo dos Santos. Tanzanian government has given a 7-day deadline to the United Nations Refugee Agency to help repatriate Burundian refugees who want to go home. There are over 240,000 Burundians in Tanzania who fled their country over political unrest. Tanzania's Minister for Internal Affairs, who issued the ultimatum, is accusing the United Nations of delaying the return of the refugees. Over 8,000 refugees from the Nduta camp have registered for voluntary repatriation. Meanwhile, the UN says it wants to make sure that Burundi is safe enough before it begins repatriation process. On to sports now. Super Eagles coach General Raw has mandated all players to report to camp on Sunday to commence training ahead of the FIFA World Qualifiers game against Cameroon. The Eagles will leave Abuja for Uyo on Monday afternoon, with the coach expecting a full house for the team's training on Tuesday and Wednesday. The Eagles will face Cameroon in Uyo on Friday afternoon and are expected in Yaoundé on Sunday ahead of the return leg the following day. Cristiano Ronaldo has been crowned UEFA Player of the Year. The Real Madrid striker becomes the first player to win the award 3 times. The Portuguese striker beat Barcelona's Lionel Messi and Juventus goalkeeper Gianluigi Buffon to win the award. Well, that's all on news now. Thanks for watching. I am Fidelia Aguncha.